Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Uptown Collective Conversations. My name is Desiree Elder, and I'm so excited to be here with you today. The Uptown Collective is a community that honors the whole artist, mind, body, and spirit. We uphold the values of creativity, support, community, and authenticity. We do things like curate conversations like the one we'll be having this evening, but we also provide classes, mentorship, and so many other things that we are excited to be rolling out to you. Today, this evening, we will be having a conversation around the imposter syndrome and how our relationships with God inform our work. But before we do that, I want to bring on my two wonderful co-founding members, my sisters, my friends, who will be joining us for this conversation, Kimberly Walker and Erin Cherry.
Hi.
Hey.
So go ahead, ladies, introduce yourself so folk know who you are.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kimberly Walker. I am an actor, writer, and model who lives in the Hamilton Heights area of New York. That's uptown, cusp of Harlem and Washington Heights.
Hey, everybody. I am Erin Cherry. I go by my last name, Cherry, which is my nickname. I am in Hell's Kitchen, New York. I am an Emmy award-winning actress, artist, producer, writer, just all around artiste, I guess. So yes, hi.
Wonderful. And if you were here with us last month, then you know we are missing one of our members, and that is Renika Williams. And we're sad that she isn't here, but we're also very excited because she booked a gig, y'all, as a regular series on a brand new show coming. So she had to move to LA, and she is right now taping. So our love and support are with her, and that's what we want. We want artists to be working. So we are grateful for that and so excited to be here. So again, today the conversation is going to be twofold. First, we're going to be talking about the imposter syndrome, and then we're going to talk about how our art, our relationships with God inform our art. So those of you who are joining us today, please make sure to drop information in the chat, have a conversation in the chat. We are excited that you are here. We will stop at different point in times to allow you to ask questions, but we do want to make sure that we are engaging with you in this live conversation. So we are excited about that. And before we get started, we just want to give a little bit of context about what the imposter syndrome is, in case you've never ever heard about it, or you're not sure what it is, just so that we can kind of be on the same page. And then we're going to get right into these questions. So essentially, the imposter syndrome is just this feeling that no matter what skills you have, what qualifications you have, what talents that you have, when you are going into spaces and places, you do not feel like you are enough. You literally feel like you are an imposter and you do not deserve to be there. And while it may be a new phenomenon, we think it's actually been around for decades. It actually started from a paper that two women wrote in the 70s about how the workplace was impacting women in a unique way, and the fact that women just never felt like they were meant to be there and they didn't deserve to be there. But as time has gone on, they have acknowledged that in the original paper didn't talk about racial tensions, other biases, other isms, and other things, and that imposter syndrome now doesn't just affect women, but it affects any of us. It says up to 70% of individuals suffer from feeling like they are not good enough in these spaces and places, whether that's your job, your profession, whatever you're doing as an artist. So I want to start by asking the ladies, how does imposter syndrome, if it does, show up for you? And I'm offering that those of you can also write that in the chat. How does imposter syndrome show up for you?
But for me, imposter syndrome kind of walks arm in arm or hand in hand sometimes with the comparison trap, with doubting my gifts, doubting my skills, and looking at who I might be surrounded by and being happy about it, being like, oh my God, I'm in the company of some awesome people. But in some moments, I'll say allowing that to intimidate me or even choosing to go that way rather than inspire me. Happily, lately, I mean, with y'all, it's happening more on the positive side where it's like, yes, okay, I'm in the right place. I'm in the right place. We all have our own particular unique talents and gifts. But for me, it's that feeling, that little nagging voice sometimes that goes, don't mess up, don't mess up, don't mess up. Because you have to make sure that you are above reproach. You have to make sure that the work is excellent because you don't want anybody else to say that you shouldn't be here the way that, sometimes I say to myself, should you be here? I don't even know if that was coherent.
That was so clear and so real. Like, because for me, I relate to that so much because it shows up in the form of perfectionism, which I'm in the process of undoing and working because it shows up for me in the way of always being found out that I'm a fraud, that I'm not really good at what I do. Like, it's like the Wizard of Oz with you go behind the curtain and you're like, oh, the Oz is not even real. And so the more my career evolves and the more bigger rooms and I get in, I go into and the people that I who inspire me and I meet them and then I'm like, okay, they're going to find out that I'm not really, an actress. I'm not really an artist in the way that I want to be in the way that I strive to be. So then I'm like, what Kimberly was saying, then I start to put on this, I do the work, I get specific. I just put all this pressure on myself to be perfect because they can't find out. And that's what I'm in the process of learning to undo because it's very damaging to the spirit at times.
Absolutely. And you made a perfect segue into something, Cherry. There are actually, from what I saw, there are 5 different imposter feelings that show up in imposter syndrome. So I'm going to give you all the 5, and I want you to tell me which ones you connect with. You in the chat too, whoever's here watching, I want you to tell me which one or all 5 that you identify with if you are experiencing imposter syndrome. So the first one you said, Cherry, is the perfectionist, where you feel like you have to be perfect. And even if you complete 99% of the things, if you don't complete that 1%, then you feel like you're a failure and a loser. So that's one of the imposter feelings that show up, being a perfectionist. The next is the expert, and the expert feels like they need to know everything about a subject before they move forward. So they've got to research, they've got to get the certifications, they have to have all of the information in order to do it. They won't apply for the job unless they meet all of the qualifications. And sometimes it means that we won't even show up and have and speak in a meeting because we don't feel like we can talk. So perfectionists, we have experts, then we have the natural genius. That's someone who's just naturally good at something. They've always been great at it. So anytime they struggle in that area that they're a natural genius in, they begin to feel like an imposter. And then the soloist. The soloist is someone who feels like they have to complete all tasks on their own. And if you have to ask for help from anyone, it means you're a failure. And then the 5th and final one is the Superman or Superwoman, which means you push yourself harder than everybody else around you because you're afraid of being found out. And so you just push harder. You've got to be the best. You've got to be better than everyone. And you have to be better in everything. You got to be the perfect parent, perfect work person, the perfect everything. And so those are the 5: perfectionist, expert, natural genius, soloist, and Superman or Superwoman. Which one would you all say you are? And I also want to hear from folks in the chat which one that you feel that you are, or all of them.
I was gonna say, I'm all 5. I was like, you talking about me? I'm being found out right now as we speak live right here.
My biggest 2 are the expert and the soloist. I'm working through asking for help, but it's a process that made me feel very called out indeed.
Yeah, I felt like I felt attacked because I'm all 5. And so I was like, oh, wait, that's me. That's also me. That's also me. So I feel my feelings are a little hurt on the inside. Of just that I'm like all 5 and like, what does that mean? And how does that make meaning for how we are moving in our lives to just like be dealing with these things on a day-to-day basis? And just the stress of feeling like you always have to show up and be on is just, you don't get to live that way. And so someone asked, what do we do if we fit into all the categories? I don't know. I guess therapy, because I'm not quite sure.
Amen. Amen.
What we're gonna do about that. But yeah, so then how are these thoughts, how do the thoughts that you feel about yourself, I'm not good enough, I'm not, I'm not great enough, whatever thoughts that might come along with imposter syndrome, what do you do to kind of combat those on like a day-to-day basis?
Well, Des, when you were giving us the different types of imposter syndrome, and you mentioned the one, I think was it the expert or the perfectionist who has to get everything, who I have to know everything, I have to figure it out. Oh, I'm not going to apply for that because that one thing doesn't line up with what I have. For me, part of that can be procrastination. There are some areas of my life where I'm like, girl, this is too important to procrastinate on. But then there are others where I go, let me just get a little better at that. I need to refine that. I need to hone that before I can let anybody see that. And I'm learning that now as someone who's writing more than I ever have in my life. I do know that at some point I'm gonna have to let people read the things that I've written as they are meant to be performed and recorded. But to counteract that, and I wish I knew who to attribute this to off the top of my head, knowing when good enough is in fact good enough. Like when I'm not settling, but when I'm going, okay, I've done a ton of work. I've let other people's eyes rest on this. I'm confident in my abilities. I believe in this finished product. It's never going to be perfect, but I have to release it rather than delay.
Absolutely. I found that in writing. I think especially because I didn't go to school for writing and all that. So then it's like, I have to know all the things and how to do this. I got to read this article and get this book. But I am just by nature, I will go down the research hole. And I will just never come out. And like you said, it definitely is procrastination. So now I have to give myself a deadline. Like you've got a week. If I'm writing a script, you've got a week or you've got 2 weeks to do all the research, read all the things and do all the things. And then you have to just start putting the ugly words on the page and just get the bad first draft out. And it's so interesting because I was working on a fellowship application this past weekend and I had to finish a script and I already had a script, but I kept tinkering with the first one. My writing coach is like, why are you editing this script? It's already won awards. It's already like, why do you keep tinkering with it? Just leave it alone. And again, like that notion of it being like just good enough, you don't feel, you're like, but I can always go back and make it better. I can always fix this. And at some point you just have to kind of stop and allow. He's like, don't take any more notes on this. The next person who gives you a note is someone who should be paying for this to be made. Otherwise, put it in the vault.
Okay, amen.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's sometimes you have to be able to tell yourself, like, you know what, I'm going to stop and move on to something else. Cherry, I don't know if you have anything to add.
Yeah, I do. You guys are just preaching to my soul right now. It amplified more for me when I won the Emmy because I now am in a place of like, God has said you belong, right? And it goes up against the feelings of the imposter syndrome and feeling like I don't belong, and then really being in a place and walking into a room or walking into an audition or working with producers and meeting people and saying, I belong here. I asked for this. And then when I had any doubt, there's no more doubt for me because there's a statue in my apartment that says, girl bye, the doubt, get rid of that doubt, right? And so the statue reminds me of that, but it's still a lot of work to go, I belong, I'm in the room with my peers, these people are not above me, we're eye to eye, I deserve to be, I've been wanting to work with you, or I love to be in the room with you. And how those feelings of not belonging after I have had to answer prayer in my career, it's still a fighting battle. And so that's where I'm at. But just really saying to myself, I belong here. I deserve this. Yes, this is what I wanted to do since I was 7. And really to say that to myself and mean it and believe it and own it is a journey.
Yeah, and I think that speaks to what Jane just put in the chat about the notion that she just said that she got started in a pilot at the Ed Sullivan Theater and she came out and then she saw herself on the marquee and just her blood went cold. And like you said, Cherry, this notion of how do I top that? And we always, even if we're not in competition with others, we're always like competition with ourselves. Like, how do I do this better than I did? Even, how do I get more people to come to this thing? How do I get more to this? And we always are trying to top ourselves. And that in and of itself can be super, super stressful to kind of digest and always feel that way, when sometimes you're going to make bad art. Sometimes it's not going to top the thing. Like, it's not, everything is not meant to be that way. But I think that's really hard for us to like ingest and believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there's this other thing I want to talk about with this notion of imposter syndrome, right? Because one, already the word imposter just brings up all of these negative connotations. It just isn't a good word. And so the way that this has gotten deemed in society as there is something wrong with me or the person who is suffering from this. This is something that I have to get over. But when you think about the reality that us as people of color, as women, there are spaces and places that were created that we were never supposed to walk into. We were never supposed to be in the first place. So when you go into those places and feel uncertain, that is not an unnatural thing to feel, because that space was literally not made for any of us to be in. And we are like breaking ceilings to be in those places and spaces. And so then we put this more pressure on us because we're like, something's wrong with us, versus looking at maybe something's wrong with the system. Maybe if something is wrong with those places and spaces that don't make us feel welcome. Is the onus on us to get over this imposter syndrome, or is it the responsibility of these places and spaces to make room for us, so that when we walk into the door, we feel welcome already?
Mm.
Well, I was going to say that it's a responsibility of the institutional racism that's perpetuating everything that we do. And the conversations, even from all aspects of just people and working people, right? When I say working people, meaning working people in theater, working people in hospitals, working people, and, just in government. Like, you see the conversation is everywhere, all day, every day in the news about how these microaggressions, these racist tropes, the institutional racism needs to be flushed out. And how do we do that? And it's a conversation that we've had since, Kimberly has her "We Out" Harriet Tubman shirt. It's been around since that, And so this is just another thing we have to fight. But I do feel like for us to be able to walk into a safe space where we can fully be our authentic selves is a start to help to dismantle not only institutional racism, but dismantle imposter syndrome itself.
Yes. Oh my God. 1,000 times yes. Like, I think it's on me as an individual to deal with my self-doubt, but it cannot be on me as an individual to solve structural racism and misogyny and misogynoir and all those things, like what you just said, Erin. Yet what we've seen in the last year, 9 months or so is this kind of new awakening of a lot of leaders and people who are new to certain industries saying, all right, this is no longer acceptable. We're not going to continue down this path. We need to forge our own paths. So I think that a lot of these storied institutions in the arts and beyond the arts need to get over the hypocrisy, look in the mirror and do the work. And I also think, like Ava DuVernay said, it's not about knocking on doors. If I'm not welcome, I'm building my own house, not just my own door. We're building I want to create spaces that I know I'm welcome in, and that I want to welcome people who have not seen themselves truly, authentically represented and celebrated. I want them to know they're welcome for me too. That's really important. Everything I write, I'm like, oh, I want all God's children to be up in this. Because I could try to wedge myself into places where I'm going to be tolerated, or no, I can build something brand new from scratch with other people who want to do that as well.
Yeah, which is what we're doing now, which is why that's why I'm so grateful that we're doing the Uptown Collective, because it's like, instead of waiting for someone to, create this for us, we were like, you know what? Like what we talked about our last time we met when we were at the FCBC, about how it's like, there's this writing room that I want to be a part of, but they have all these rules. But you know what? I'm just going to create my own writing room, right? Mm-hmm. And then it's like, these are conversations that no one's really having that we want to have. And then we were just like, you know what, let's Uptown Collective. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So yeah.
Definitely, because we're creators and we're co-creators, or called to be co-creators too.
Right. And I think it's also in how it shows up in our work and how we think about others, right? So because even this conversation, we're talking about racism, but we also know that there's ableism. Yes. We know that there's xenophobia. We know that there is homophobia. There's all these different ways in which folk who we may not be experiencing that thing, but they are experiencing too. So it's, again, how we also create a community around others who feel marginalized and ostracized. So we're not just saying, oh, it's just our thing, you know, and there are other folks who are experiencing that, and how we can be sensitive to that in certain ways, and open up spaces where we can have those conversations, and someone doesn't feel like, well, I can't talk about it because it's only a race thing, or it's only a sexism thing. And it's like, no, it's all the things. It's literally all of the things. And so just, you know, us always being mindful of that, as well as we continue to create. And so I'm thinking about this, and we don't want to make assumptions, but I know at least those who are of us who are on this conversation have a relationship with God. We believe in God. Some others, you might have a higher power. But just this notion again of what you said, two things I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about the creation story and how it says when God created good. Like, and everything was just good. Nothing was perfect. Nothing was amazing. Nothing was excellent. It was just good. Sorry, my kids are screaming in the background. I apologize. So there was that. But just again, how does this notion of, when you even see biblically or all around, there are people who God called to do things who were unqualified. It's like, nope, I called you. You don't have none of the things. You don't have none of the qualifications for this job, but I'm calling you to do this thing. How does then a place for imposter syndrome even exist when we have even examples of a God who calls the unqualified?
Oh, you done said a word. I mean, it's, you know, studying and being at Bible study and just going to church and learning, getting deeper into the Bible has just broken so many chains for me, because there is imposter syndrome in the Bible, right? It's like when especially with Moses, and like there was times when Moses didn't listen. God said, do A, B, C, D. And he's like, I'm going to do A, B, C, D, and E. And God's like, I didn't tell you to bring E. I told you to just do A, B, and C. But, you know, also too, the procrastination, the insecurities, or not responding to God right away, or, you know, hearing the word, but not really listening and jumping in right away. So you see procrastination. And so that helps me with my healing and my journey. And so I'm grateful to be in a place where I can see that. I can see myself in the stories that are in the Bible.
Yeah. And there's always, I mean, I'm not inspired by people who seem perfect. I'm inspired by people that I know are flawed, that I know have been through some stuff, that managed to do something beautiful. And knowing, you know, who I am, whose I am. My room is kind of intense with all the affirmations and things, but sometimes I need a lot of that stuff to kind of get me, you know, pumped up. That's something that helps me combat the negative thought spirals when I go, yes, you can. Yes, you can. Like sometimes if I'm feeling blocked creatively, whether that's been in a play, remember plays, if it's been in rehearsal or writing something or anything else, it's kind of like, I know that I have this talent. I know that I have the desire to see something through. Could you just like help me either see it differently, set it aside for a hot second, or just believe in myself enough to know that I can keep forging ahead? So yeah, it's like its own tiny identity crisis, where in theory, all the affirmations that I surround myself with should not leave space for those negative little whispers, but I'm human and that stuff does crop up. But it is in remembering that kind of divine identity, divine responsibility, that it kind of helps me roll the shoulders back and take the deep breath from the diaphragm and be like, okay, I got this. Maybe it sucked today, but I'm gonna try again tomorrow. Takes the pressure off.
Yeah. And I see Kathleen just put in the chat, connection to my purpose and connection to my source has allowed me to basically eliminate imposter syndrome in my life. And I think what she's saying, I'm glad that it's eliminated from your life. Congratulations. You should be on here. But secondly, when I really think about some of this, I think about the notion of surrender. Because a lot of the notion of being an imposter, not feeling like we belong, is connected to what we think an outcome should be. how good of an artist we should be, how we should be showing up in a workplace. We make all these assumptions about what it means. I want to be a singer. That means I got to be Grammy Award winning this. You know, everybody isn't Beyonce, or everyone isn't meant to be A, B, or C, right? But sometimes that's what we're striving to. And I think, to Kathleen's point, when we understand our purpose and our connection to what we're supposed to be doing, then it eliminates some of that, because we're able to kind of we won't, some of that perfectionist and expert things that we feel like I'm supposed to be doing this over here, or just surrendering to an outcome, period. I'm like, okay, for me, I know I'm supposed to be writing. I know God dropped this thing in my you know, in my head. I don't know why, because I was minding my own business. So I'm gonna just keep writing until it kind of reveals itself. And I think some of that helps you not to be in. We spend so much time, I think, thinking about being imposters that then we don't do the work. And I think just showing up and doing the work proves you're not an imposter, right? Because if you just doing it, you'll keep getting better, you'll keep growing, and you're like, oh, well, it didn't suck as bad as it did the last time. And then you're like, okay, so I'm a little bit better. And I think sometimes just showing up for yourself also helps you combat those negative things. And so I've even found that getting up and making sure that I write, even if I literally, my goal is like, Des, write a page a day. That's it. One page. And then I just feel like, oh, okay, I beat down resistance. We talk about, there's this great book called The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. I love it, love it, love it. The War of Art. And that's what it talks about. Every day you're just getting up and you're trying to like kick resistance butt every day. And that shows up in procrastination. And if you could just do that, then you're like, okay, whew, I did it for today. We'll let tomorrow deal with itself, you know?
Yeah. I love that, Des. And also something that Libby Ann put in, and also, I mean, Kathleen, they're kind of like back to back, you know, with Kathleen saying there's nothing I can't do because I have what I was called to do and I have who called me to do it. And then what Libby Ann said, I believe what's for you is for you. So I say we just have to go for it. I mean, you're right. Like when I was walking today, I was reminding myself of that. What's mine is mine already. And in the one way that has helped me detach from auditions, like I did it. It's either mine or it's not, or it's somebody else's, good for them. But at the same time, when I think about what I have to create, it's like, oh yeah, what's mine is mine. And if I want this story to be told, I got to do it. I can't wait for anybody else to do it. And I know I'm gonna be mad if somebody else tries to do it and it's rusty. So it's kind of a little kick in the pants when I think of it that way. But yeah, that, and what you said about surrender is so true. Release the outcome, do the work.
Yeah. And surrender is good for, go ahead. No, go ahead. Oh, no, I was, surrender is, really, my friend right now. And, just not putting my faith into an outcome. And, you know, like Kimberly, what you were saying about going into auditions and letting it go, getting rid of scripts, not holding on to them, and really saying, okay, if it's for me, it's for me. And then going back to what we said in our last session about the power of yes and no. And a part of that too is like, you know what, now that I'm in different, you know, in front of different people now in different rooms because of what happened with my win, but also too, not rushing to take everything, making sure I'm reading the scripts and making sure I understand what's in front of me and what do I want to say yes to and no to. And also saying, okay, I don't have to do everything. I don't have to put that pressure on myself. And if I say no, and that means that something else is for me, but having a vision of how I want to be in this world and present myself in the world is very important as well. And surrendering, okay, you know what? I have to have the 20 Emmys, the 30 Oscars and all of that. Like I still can be a successful artist in my own right. And what that looks like, I don't know. And not controlling that is very important. And so that's what I'm working on as well.
Yeah, and I love Kathleen said action shuts down doubt. And that's true. It's like, you suck, but I wrote my pages though, you know, so you can kind of like argue back with yourself because you're like, but I did this, you know. And so that really is true that, you know, and I've said it before, and there's books like motivation is a myth in the sense that sometimes we want to be motivated before we do a thing. And it's like, I don't really ever feel like working out. Like, and I'm angry, but once I get there, I'm like, oh, okay, this isn't so bad. Same with writing. That blank white page is like, that's scary. That's worse than giving labor, having kids. that white piece of paper. I'm like, oh God. But once you kind of start and get going, then you're able to do it. And something that you all are saying, it makes me think of the scripture that talks about your gifts will make room for you. And I think sometimes we think about that notion of our gifts making room as if there are doors that people should be opening for us or ways in which it expands. But sometimes your gift making room for you means you create the room, right? And I think that's something that we have to remember too, that that we are able to create, especially now with YouTube and cameras and all these things. There's ways in which we can create and get our art out and get the things out that we want. And it's okay for it to be bad. I think writing has helped me learn that, just get it out. And then, like it's all writing is rewriting and editing. And in the same way we can kind of have that. And so I see you, James, saying you're trying to get the courage to go back to a piece that you begin writing. You go back to the piece. It's okay to put things down. We all put things down. Sometimes you're like, it's too tough. It's too hard. I cannot deal with that. But you pick it up again and you start one page at a time. And you made another great point about making the mistake of sharing it with a couple of people who didn't like the insights. And so it scares you. But the reality is, I'm like, if everyone likes it, we're not doing it right. Like, because nobody likes everything. We don't like everything. So why are we upset when everybody doesn't like something? Because everyone is, different. And I think about the story when it says that Jesus went to the one. There's a 99 and Jesus left the 99 for the one. So I'd be like, oh, well, my stuff is just for the one. So if the 99 don't like it, it's for this niche. You're not creating art for everybody. You're creating it for a niche. And that niche is who needs to accept it. And everybody else is going to kind of say what they say. But one of the other things I've learned is like who to take notes from. Right. That was another thing my writing coach taught me. One, he was like, don't send your thing to everybody because everyone's going to have notes. And he also said, learn what a good note is, right? And so we have to be able to identify what is opinion versus what is a good note, and be able to like take the meat but throw away the bones. And so I encourage you to keep doing it. I know you still want the Tony, Kathleen, and you can still get the Tony if you want it. 36 hours of labor was definitely worse than the blank page. Oh no, see, I didn't have 36 hours. I said, give me the epidural at like 1 centimeter because I didn't feel like I should feel pain in life. So I drank grape soda and then, push kids out. So 36 hours, God bless you. You can do anything, Twinkle.
Anything.
Okay. So, I'm muted. Next question that I want to talk about as we kind of move into the conversation about relationship with God. Depending on how you kind of grew up and how you understand, the God or, relationship with the higher power, sometimes that comes in to determine what types of gigs that you take or you don't take, and whether or not those things are aligned with your belief systems. So as artists, as actresses, as writers, is that something that you think about? Like how is this going to affect this, or what guides or fuels your decision on what gigs you take or what things you write?
This is a really good question. For me, it's what's important for me is at the end, when it's my time to go and people reflect back on my career and what I've done, how am I presenting Black women is very important to me. And I connected with God because God is so in me and my relationship with God, and I'm a believer. So for me, it goes hand in hand, but I don't base what I say yes to and no to based on judgment of the character unless it's a stereotype. But other than that, I'm not here to judge my characters. I'm here to step in the shoes and elevate and amplify their humanity. And so people in the world can recognize themselves, and people from all walks of life. When I say people, I mean Black women, because that's what I'm going to play, right? But just women, Black women from all walks of life can see themselves. And I don't have a system in me that says, oh, I can't do this part because, God is going to get angry or be upset if I take this part. It's more of like, let me read the script. Let me see who's producing this, or let me see who's a part of this, or let me see who the writer is and see where they're coming from. It's political as well for me, and how they're, and how they live in the world, because who I associate myself with, right? The bearing of the fruit, right? And it's like, I want to associate myself with good fruit. And so if they don't have a good compass, they don't have to be a believer. I mean, I've been in rooms with people who are agnostic, and they're good people, and they want to represent Black voices in the right ways that I agree with. And so that's what's important to me. And I feel like because of that, I feel like God finds favor in me. Okay, anyway.
Yes. Sherry, so when we had our last conversation, and it was the day that Queen Cicely Tyson passed away, and you were talking about that. Like, I remember you mentioned the phrase, I think you said the canon of my work, looking back over my life and thinking about the roles you want to exemplify, but also our job. I don't want to sound hokey, but as actors, we want to show humanity and empathy and investigate the stuff we have in common, despite all of the differences and intricacies of our identities. I mean, when I was younger, I had reservations about language. So what kinds of words would I have to say? I've always been a little, in life, just kind of like, oh, that makes me sad when people say swear words that are religious, because I'm just like, oh, but like, he's mad cool. Why did you use his name as a swear word? But I don't police that, I've had evolving opinions on whether somebody's going to see my my nether regions. That's still a hard no. But do I think that's because of my relationship with God? It might be. It could also just be that everything ain't for everybody and leave something to the imagination. But I don't judge people who, I've seen all kinds of movies and seen all kinds of folks' parts. Like, you do you. For me, it's, does this character interest me? Is there any doubt in my mind that I can play this well? If so, great, because that means I'm going to really lean in and dig into it. Do I want to work with the other people? Who do I think might see this? For me, if anything I do that's going to have, say, youth matinees, I get really excited about, especially if they're from New York City schools, because oh man, for one, if they love it or hate it immediately. But to walk into a theater and be surrounded by Black and brown kids who are in middle school or in high school, who maybe don't see a lot of plays, maybe don't see a lot of people who look like them on stage in certain plays, like Shakespeare and whatever, that also matters to me, because I want them to see, yeah, you can do this. You can come up here. Like, put your phone away and please stop taking video, but you can do this as well. But I want ultimately to do work I'm proud of. I don't want to have anything be like, oh, Lord, why did I say yes to that? So fulfilled and challenged. And I want to show people's humanity.
So y'all better than me, because in my early 20s, I was real saved. So, and I was a dancer, and then there just started coming a time where it was like, it didn't feel right to be the president of the Bible study and go up and twerk. And so I couldn't do both, and I started feeling conflicted. But as I look back on it, I also wondered about how much of that was really about what I felt about it versus how I felt others were going to judge me, who were also believers. And that is where I think that if I had, not like a regret, but when I think about it, a lot of my decision making earlier on was not because of really a thing with me and God, but a thing with me and other believers. And the commentary and the things that I was concerned about. And even as I've started writing again, and righteous isn't for TVN. This doesn't belong on TV. And it was like, how do I navigate doing this or writing these authentic things and also being a pastor? and an active pastor, not someone who just used to be or kind of in, which would make things maybe a little bit different. But how do I honor both of these sides when I'm doing this and I'm meant to set a particular type of example? And so there are things that, you wrestle with. There's some things I won't post, or there's some things I just won't do. But yeah, I know that certainly earlier on there were, I was that person who, I was working with an artist and he was gay and I loved him and I danced at Pride and stuff. But at a certain point, my belief system at the time was that that wasn't okay. And so then I started quitting things and then I wasn't dancing anymore. And that sucked too, because you're kind of like, but I had to go through that process and I had to wrestle through that. And so I just say that because, everyone is not, everyone who's watching may not be cool with everything, and just that there's a journey and a process that your art and your work and who you are takes, where if I don't feel good about it because I don't feel good about it, or I feel like God is like, yeah, that's one thing, but being judged by others and making my decision based on what other believers might think about what I'm doing is something that I would never do anything because, there's someone who would always kind of have a problem with it. And so I'm wondering then with that, have you ever experienced regret after taking or not taking a gig because of maybe your faith or because of,
I mean, that's a good question too, because I've had, well, I don't know if it's regret, but there's been times where I really wanted a part, sometimes you'll get that no, right? And then I'm side-eyeing God, like, you knew I want that part. Like, I don't understand what's going on. Like, I have these conversations. And then in between the interim of finding out that the show was a disaster, or the director was not a good director, or that no one liked the cast, or it was a bad apple, or just whatever drama or things that take place. And not all projects, but there's been times where I have had where I just go, oh gosh, I'm so glad I didn't get that. I'm so glad I didn't get it, because after the aftermath, I see how I've been protected. So in that aspect, yes, there's been that I've regretted being upset and having this argument when I'm like, okay, God, you have my best interest at heart. Clearly I wouldn't have been productive in that room, or whatever the case may be. So I've had some experiences of that where I just feel like, okay, you right. I'm sorry, okay. But yeah, but regrets so far, none, but you never know.
Yeah, I don't have regrets of things that I've done. I do regret not auditioning for a couple of things, like being like, decline. But again, Des, what you were saying earlier, I don't know. Well, part of that is just like no, but it's like, oh, do I have to explain that? If my parents see that, is this going to be a thing? Like, what do I, getting into all of that over something I probably wouldn't get anyway, because it's just an audition, or like, you don't have to go to the callback. But there have been a few things where I'm going, girl, you should have just done the work, taken that opportunity to meet somebody. Once, I don't know if this fits exactly. There was something that, no, this is not a direct corollary, so to speak. I hope I used that word correctly. I had an audition for something that was keeping me up at night and making me anxious and gave me a headache for like 5 days, just due to the subject matter. It was very triggering regarding some past trauma. And I remember talking to my therapist about it, and I was like, well, my appointment's tomorrow, blah, blah, blah. I made it as far as signing in, and I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to, I can't, I have to get these words out. I can't keep thinking about this. And when I apologized for not canceling earlier, it was one of those moments my headache went away and I slept that night. So it was something where it just wasn't, that would not have been healthy for me to do. And that's not a faith thing. That's where I was, that's a soul thing. I should have listened to myself earlier, and maybe I wouldn't have had a headache for 5 days. But I just put that out there because of alignment, even if it's not about alignment with faith. I mean, we all have our values, whatever you believe in, secular humanism, all of these things, we each have our values. And so deciding for yourself what's in or out of alignment for you is huge. I say to myself, looking at my reflection.
Yeah, I think I would have just wished I would have known earlier that God was with me either way. I think that's would have been helpful. Not that I would have done everything that I didn't do, but I was just very concerned with like being out of relationship with God, and my limited kind of understanding of how God kind of flows in relationship really just meant that, I feel like I was on a trajectory with dance, and then it just kind of derailed a bit, and I was like, okay, well, and then I'll dance in church. And that I love dancing in church, but just there was a way in which I couldn't reconcile it. And I don't think that it was something that needed to be reconciled. I just didn't understand that. And I didn't have those around me at that time who could walk me through that. It was more so like, girl, no, can't wear that, can't do that. This, you shouldn't do that. And so that's kind of how I aligned myself. And so I think that's the only thing where I'm like, I might have been on tour right now, not talking to y'all, had that, but everything works out the way it's supposed to. But I think that is, and like Kathleen, she said she had a very similar journey of being a very judgy Christian to being very progressive and open. Yes, I was super judgy. Ask my mama, ask my family. I was super judgy of everything because I understood relationship with God about checking off certain boxes of what you did and did not do. And there was no gray. There couldn't be gray. And so, but this version of myself, it was like, so I become a pastor and then I get looser. Like that's how it works. But yes, that is allow people to see authenticity and transparency, which is, I think one of the reasons why there's such a rise of these religious nuns, NONES, where people who are leaving the church and don't want to be affiliated with God because they don't see, authenticity. They kind of see this hypocrisy where it's like, I'm here like this, but I'm here like this. And so
Right.
I appreciate, my relationship, even if it's a little bit, it's a little messier, Yes.
Was we help me, Jesus.
What's we works? What's we works?
was.
English is my first language. My gosh. You know what? I'm hungry. My blood sugar is low.
Me too.
Anywho, were we on a Zoom or was it a call? I'm trying to remember, Cherry, where we were having this conversation, but I think it was a callback to a sermon, maybe from Pastor Lakeisha, but the idea of things are spelled out for you when you're new to a relationship. Like if you look at it, like, the children of Israel, y'all have been in bondage for hundreds of years. Now you need to learn how to be in community, which is why I'm telling you very specifically, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. When you have matured in relationship and know who you are and know what that relationship is, you don't have to be told every single little thing, because binary of either it's black or it's white, it's good, it's bad, it's right or it's wrong, it's it's secular, it's spiritual, all of that. And then you think, well, look at the grays, look how many shades of gray there are. For one person, something might maybe shake their faith. For somebody else, just knowing that somebody loves and believes Jesus and can go out and play a certain kind of role or write a certain kind of story and connect with people of vastly different backgrounds is in and of itself. I mean, that's an example that if I'm made in the image of God, of a creative and I think complicated God, then of course I'm creative and complicated as well myself. And why should how dare I edit myself and make someone else who maybe doesn't have a relationship, wishes they could, or doesn't want one at all, believe there's nothing here for them, or believe that they can't, just telling ourselves no too much for fear of what people are going to think, for fear of that judgment, and for fear of leaning into that complexity.
Yeah, and it's that was Reverend Lakeisha's sermon, and and asking the questions and ask them questions, and also too, I love it when Pastor Mike always talks about how God is bigger than the Bible and goes beyond. And so that helps me a lot as well, because it's important to not be judgy and not, and the people in the Bible who stories that we read and we tell and we share with people, they were living some complicated, going through some emotional journeys and going through asking a lot of questions, having arguments with God and debating, so it's just like, we want to judge other people, but we don't judge the people who we read about and we study. We accept them in their complexity a lot of the times. And so to be able to, if I'm accepting and looking at these stories and accepting these men and women in their complexities, I should be able to do that in my life as I walk on this earth.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, and I think writing too has helped me, is to honor the nuance, like the nuance of who we are, the nuance of characters. Like, we are not a monolith. And we say that we're not monolithic, everyone's different, but then we don't want things to be different, write different, told different, look different. And so being able to honor that there is that complexity to us is super, super important. And so it sounds like then as you are evolving, your art also has evolved, which is important. And so I want to offer up that if anyone has questions or comments that they want to make or that are like, around this topic that you didn't get answered, please go ahead and drop those in the chat as we begin to kind of round this out. So again, if there's anything you want to say, offer up that we missed, please feel free to do so. And as you do that, I want to ask you all, so what does it mean for you then for all of the parts of your life to be in alignment? What does that look like and what does that feel like for you?
Can my life be in alignment? And I say this as meaning that, how people are, society, entertainment, just everything we got, people just tell you or try to say to you that you can have it all, right? And you can have everything at once. And not saying that that's not true. There's people who do have the marriage, the kids, the career, just all the things that they've asked for and on different levels. But also too, I find that if I'm being successful in one area of my life, I'm back here working on another area of my life, right? So it's like I for one, have stopped going back to the perfectionist thing, trying to keep all the balls in the air. If I just have that one, if my work area is doing really well and I'm, I have family drama or, relationship is on the rocks, and not trying to hide that and not trying to come across as like, okay, guys, everything's in alignment because I'm a believer, I'm an artist, and people view me as successful. It's like, no, like the way we are when we check in with each other, how's today? Girl, listen, okay. And then we go into what we got to go into. But having someone to be there for you to accept that and hear that, and how we show up to our meetings with how we're feeling with whatever day. And I love that about us, right? And so that's also given me the courage to continue to be my authentic self and not feel like I have to be, everything is in alignment all the time, because I just feel like it's inhumanly, it's not possible. But that's for me.
All right. What you said, Cherry, about, being your authentic self, for me, as much as I would strive to be in alignment from time to time, it's about, am I being my authentic self? Am I trying to do better, be better, get better? And by better, I mean, am I trying to heal what is hurt? Am I trying to have authentic connections with my family, with my friends? Am I trying to get the stuff out onto this laptop that's up in here, that's in here? Am I living as open as I can when I can? Because sometimes you got to kind of shut down a little bit. But for me, yeah, it's, it's going to sound saccharine. Am I being honest with myself, with other people? Am I trying my best?
Yeah. And I think that notion of like, having it all, right? I think you can have it all, whatever all looks like for you. But you can't have it all at the same time. You just can't. If you're, as a wife, a mom, a pastor, right? All these different things. And when I'm doing well in one area, there is something that I'm neglecting. There's something that is not being looked at to the same level at that time. And being okay with that and how you kind of balance all of those things. And there's this book I read some years ago by Tiffany Dufu. It's called Drop the Ball. And it talked about that because I'm a person who wants to drop any ball. Like I'm not a person as a perfectionist who wants to drop any ball, but being able to be like, you know what, I did the best I could for today, and I will try again tomorrow. That's all I got. And I also think, to me, honestly, for some reason, having kids kind of made me focus and be a little better about things, because they kind of give you like, all right, they're in school from this time to this time, or it makes you stop and, kind of set these parameters around your life in a different way. You don't sleep, but you got parameters set. So let's look at some of these questions. So I have a question from Kathleen. What are your best tips and tricks? What are the best ways to daily combat the mean girl in your head? Also, any books, podcasts, Instagram accounts to follow for support? Yeah. So Kathleen, you already know, we've talked about, I like The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. I recently just read, or I'm reading, The Year of Yes.
That's on my list. Yeah.
That's been super helpful. I think, again, finding a way, like we talked about, to show up for yourself. If you're a writer, there's this journal called, it's called The Writer's Right, WRIGHT. So it was a writer who couldn't find a journal that matched. So it has daily writing prompts in it, but also you could write your gratitude in there. You can write, it's like a one-stop shop for journal notes and all these things. I think that's super helpful. I meditate, and I think that has been really helpful. If you meditate ahead of anything, you kind of get ahead of all of the nasty, negative kind of things that kind of might show up. And I talk to myself a lot. So I literally have to have a conversation that's not true. That's not. Sometimes that's 30, 45 minutes, an hour, but yes. I'm actually fighting that's not true. That's a lie. That's not. Okay, that it takes 5 positive things to counter this negative things. Say these 5 positive things to yourself, those types of things where you just actively, I think being present with yourself kind of also allows you to kind of see what's going on and be let me step back for a minute and figure this out.
Yeah, I meditate also. I meditated before this call this evening. I like the Shine app and the Exhale app, both of which were created by women of color. The Exhale app is totally free. You don't need a subscription. The Shine app, I forget how much it is off the top, but it also goes on sale for an annual subscription pretty often. And they have free content also. I sometimes will set a timer to let myself whine or complain, usually 20 to 30 seconds. 20 seconds if I'm whining because I don't like whining and I don't like the sound of whining, but I will literally 20 seconds, get it out. And I'm like, okay, and now you're done. Move on. Do something, right? Do something about it. I like also Therapy for Black Girls. That podcast and that account. We the Urban gives me life. So often also on Instagram. My Self-Love Supply is another account on Instagram. Praying. I also pray. I have what one of my brothers and I call face down reverent prayer. And then there's also that conversation. Yeah, exactly. And then there's also that very casual, thank you, good morning, that throughout the day. I mean, I pray continually. It doesn't say face down reverent prayer continually. I mean, it's really running conversation pretty often, but sometimes just reminding myself to breathe. I am a reformed breath holder. I don't know why I would hold my breath so often, but meditation over this past year has really, really helped with that. And I do gratitude journaling at night. Every night before I go to bed, I have to fill up a certain amount of paper on every page, a certain amount of every page. And I do really pretty ink combinations. So I like looking at something. Okay, that's good. But yeah. And also, oh gosh, with discipline, like what Des said earlier, sometimes I just don't feel like it. I can't express to you how much I hate burpees and push-ups, but I did push-ups this morning. I didn't wait to feel like doing them because that will literally never happen. But Writer's Hour, like the London Writers Salon, oh my gosh, I'm in love with that. Writing for 50 minutes to an hour every day, writing with my writing group, just tag in some folks who also are looking to expand and to be true to themselves and to put stuff out there, and have those text threads where you can just like get up to your shenanigans, and wonderful humans with whom you could be very open and not cry if you need to.
Yeah, there's two things in the chair. There's this thing called the 5-minute journal. My husband Tony got it for me, so it makes you write in the day like three things that you're grateful for. Three things would make today go great, and then you have to write an I am affirmation. And then at the bottom, at the end of the day, you fill it out. It's like what things went really great and like what could have been better. And so it's just a journal of all of those things. And then I read this book some time ago by Mel Robbins called The 5-Second Rule. And it talked about the notion that you have 5 seconds, like scientifically, like for your brain before it starts trying to talk you out of something. Mm-hmm. And so the 5-second rule says if you do the thing and you say it within 5 seconds, then your brain won't start talking. So sometimes I have to do that. Like I'm in bed and it's 6 or 6:15 and I don't want to wake up. And I literally am like, okay, count down and pop up. And that's what I do, like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 in my head. And then I pop up. And I just make myself, because sometimes it's just the getting up or doing the thing. So that book's really good. But Brene Brown, Dare to Be Great. Or wait, is that it? Daring Greatly. Yeah, Brene Brown. That's a great book too. Cherry, sorry.
No, this is all good. I was like, wow, let me get some of my game. Imposter syndrome coming in, but let me get rid of that. I work out a lot. I'm, just a very physical person. And I love, Kimberly, like you're saying, I love doing burpees and push-ups. I mean, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I yell at my trainer. I'll just like, why are you making me do all this stuff? But working out really helps me. Therapy, my therapist, finding a good therapist that I can, if I need to just, like you said, snot cry, or if I need to just get something off my chest, or if I need to yell, la, 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 before if I'm having an issue with something, instead of going to the person and yelling at them. So that's been helping me a lot, and just getting control of, myself, and just having the time for myself. The 45 minutes, it's great. I just got this writing prompt book from Target. You can get it online too. It's 300 writing prompts. Yeah. And so I was like, oh, okay. And so I have it by my bed. And so, I'll try to do as much as I can before I go to bed. And it's made me a little emotional. Some of the questions, I was like, oh, responding to it authentically and honestly, writing, as if no one's going to look at it, because it's just me being honest with myself, and like getting a little teary eyed and being a little, so that. I love when things fall apart helps me. It's a really it's solacing. I guess it's really gives me solace in the fact that I'm not alone dealing with trauma and dealing just how to deal with when things fall apart. The 4 agreements is another one that I take heed to, but also to just giving me that time. Like I said this last time, and we talked about this too, Kimberly and Des, just not feeling guilty when you take time for self. Like if I want to go to bed early, I'm going to go to bed early, even if I'm like, I have a lot of things to do, but you know what? I'll get up early in the morning and do them. Being okay with just saying that, or, waking up in the morning and just not getting out of bed. And going, you know what? Okay. Or if I want to have the mimosa at 9 a.m. in the morning. Okay. I'm just saying, I'm not saying I'm going to drink the whole bottle, but not feeling guilty because I'm waking up and like, you know what? I want some Prosecco and my OJ with my breakfast. Just little things like that bring me joy, especially during this year of a pandemic. It's like finding ways to bring myself joy, dancing with myself in my apartment, put on my Spotify playlist, and just dance with myself, and I have like little night lights, that I invested in. And like, so at night, instead of having lights on, I just have those little lights shining throughout my apartment, and I dance like I'm in the club, like, yeah, you know what I mean? And I have been, okay, Bruno Mars and Anderson .Paak. That song, I have that song on rotation. That song, look at it, leave the door open. I have had on rotation. My neighbors are like, what in the hell is wrong with that girl? Because the song is over and over, because it's just the old school, it reminds me of my dad dancing around the house in the kitchen, just like, and it's just so refreshing to have that kind of music. And yeah, I just felt like that song came right on time, and just I'm not tired of that song. So that while I'm cooking or doing whatever, just in the house, I've had it on rotation. So that song is giving me life right now. So I just want to say that.
You know what song I'm listening to all the time is Colors by Black Pumas. I listen to that song multiple times every single day. Also, Twinkle, My Self Love Supply. That's the name of that that account on Instagram. And so, does someone ask? Is there a way we can
I'll
compile
do a resource list and put it on the Uptown Collective page on the Dream Center site. It won't be tomorrow. Like check back like late into the week, you know. But we'll create a supply list. There's also 2 other questions. But yes, songs on repeat are good. I listen to the Brown Skin Girl by Beyonce because it just makes me like. And then my daughters they kick, so they're all run brown skin girl. They don't know the other words. Sounds like they're. But it just something about it brings me joy for them to be talking about their brown skin, and so that song. I'm sure Tony's always looking like it's brown skin girl in the house. So, so there are 2 more questions. One, when you're speaking to your elders or parents, how did you help them understand you as a creative? And then Cherry, this one specifically for you, did the Emmy confirm you? So maybe Cherry, you can answer your question first, and then we'll end with that. The how did you help your parents understand you as a creative?
Yes, the Emmy has confirmed me, right? With the way that this is me up here knowing the Emmy has confirmed me. The Emmy has confirmed that I'm talented. The Emmy has confirmed that I can be in the rooms with my peers and I'm deserving. But here in the spirit world, my spirit and the kingdom here and all the things that I have to deal with individually, dealing with my self-worth, dealing with the doubt and the imposter syndrome, and feeling like, okay, there have been times, not so much anymore because you're working it out through therapy and just talking through it, where I was just, and I talked to Kimberly about this at the church. Where I was just really frustrated that I won. There was times where I was just like, I can't live up to this pressure. I'm so overwhelmed. Like the people are going to be expecting certain things of me that I cannot live up to. I'm trying to get off this perfectionist thing. And then I was like, how did I win this thing when I'm not famous like a Regina King or a Viola Davis? And I was like, God, you got me all discombobulated. Because in my head, I was like, I'm going to be, popular in the sense of like household name. If you turn on your TV, everybody knows who I am. And this is when I was growing up and dreaming of it, because I've been wanting to be an actress since I was 6 years old. And my mother, if she's watching, Mommy, you watching, she can attest to that, because I told her when I was 6 and 7, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. So you start to have these images and these dreams, and then the dream doesn't come in the way that you want. And then you have to start to go, okay, it's okay, grieve that. And then you come up with new dreams, right? But it's confirmed, yes, for me up here, but there's still those times where I'm just like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. This is a lot of pressure. And so then I have to start to do a lot of self-care and trust that God knows what God is doing and that I deserve to have it in my house. I worked my ass. Can I say ass? It's live, but I worked my butt off, and it's okay to say that, because I wouldn't even own it. Like Des knows this. I was at church and no one knew I won the damn thing. I didn't talk about it because I was just like, I can't handle this pressure. So yeah.
This would have been my just like this. I would have been holding it the whole time today. Like this.
Coming into church praising praising with the Emmy up in the air. Like, what is that? That's my Emmy. I just wanted.
That's why it can't give me nothing.
But it's confirmed. But yes, I'm still working through what is brought up in me.
Okay. So one thing, someone asked, what are the Bruno, we're talking about a song, Bruno Mars and Anderson .Paak. It's called Leave the Door Open. It's not for children, but it has a nice feel. It makes you want to wear bell bottoms and put up a disco ball and electric slide, or, hold yourself and dance. So that's what we're talking about. And then finally, yes, Kathleen, leave the door open. And then finally, how, when you're speaking to your elders or parents, how did you help them understand you as a creative? I mean, I think I was just blessed to have a mom and folk who were just like supportive, like, because I was always doing something. Like I was writing stories. My mama couldn't even, when I got in trouble, my mom couldn't even whoop me, because when I was a stubborn kid who just wasn't gonna cry. But if she told me I couldn't go outside, I'd be like, I don't care, so I couldn't read or write, because I loved writing and making up stories. So it was then I started dancing, and now I'm designing nails. I'm always doing something creative. So I think you just kind of, you find those who are accepting of you, and then if those who don't, you persist anyway. My mama, see on here talking about facts. Yes.
Mama, where my mama at? Look, come on now.
For me, as far as talking to parents about, approval or accepting me as an artist, my parents, God bless them, really do accept their weird ass daughter. I'm the only girl. I have 4 brothers. They love and accept me. I remember when I did the vagina monologues when I was 18. Yeah, I was 18 when I did that. And there was really something about my parents being good audience members, hearing me say the word vagina a lot, hearing other women say the word vagina a lot, but following instructions and yelling a word that I won't say live because we're not in London. No, I'm not. No, there are words that I'm not gonna say live on the internet. But it's like, you said that. I heard it. I saw it. I was on stage and I saw you do it. So you can't really be mad at me. And they were never mad at me. It was just, there were a couple conversations. I want you to be mindful of characters you play. I want you to be mindful of what you're portraying on stage. It was like, heard, we're going to disagree sometimes. And there's some shows I'm not going to tell you about or invite you to. Great. But I don't worry. I mean, there are certain things I'm just not going to tell them about, but you don't have to worry if they're watching. They ain't watching now.
Real quick, this reminds me of a story with my stepdad way back in the day. And he came to see him and my mom. They came to see me do a show, and the character, I can't remember the character, but this is like I was in college, and my character cursed, and I didn't let them know. And after the show, my papa was like, "Okay, listen. First of all, you can't curse right." He didn't think I could curse right. Okay, I was like, like your family's the one that's gonna tell you you're good or you're not good. And then he was like, "And I'm gonna need you to let me know before I come to the show if you're cursing, if you're naked, if you're making out with somebody." Like, just had a list. And I was like, okay, so you're basically not coming to anything. So I just wanted you to know that.
I can relate, just right quick. Yeah, I can relate on the just give us a heads up. They're like, you're not gonna be naked. That's a joke now. I'm like, no, I won't be naked. Bra and underwear. And then, oh. But yeah, they're like, please tell us, are you gonna kiss anybody? Just so we know, just so we're going in. I'm like, heard and understood.
No, my mom probably be like, yes, whatever the thing is. She's just like, yes, my baby. That's how she is. So it wouldn't probably matter. But thank you all so much for joining us on this conversation. We hope that you enjoyed it. We are excited to continue to build and offer up more resources. Just a couple of things. Again, the collective is open to everybody. And as we go on in the months, we'll be having other offerings, like we said, classes, mentorships, resources, all the things. Just, we like to track things out in a way that is manageable. So we do have, though, an interest survey that we would love for you to fill out. They're dropping that link there. If you can fill out that survey, let us know what you want to see, what type of conversations you want to have. That will be super helpful for us as we continue to build this thing out. And then just a couple of things that are upcoming. One thing, next month, if you are a writer, whether that's a screenwriter, if you're doing a teleplay, web series, short, we're going to be offering up a simulated writing group in the month of April and May with Jamal Joseph, who is Academy Award nominated, but his show just got picked up by Stars. And so he's also my writing coach. And so he's going to be doing a simulated writing group. So if you're interested in that, you can go to dreamcenterharlem.org and check that out. We'll also be doing, we're going to be doing a panel with CAA, which is a casting agency, where they'll be giving you kind of the business of the business, but also they'll be breaking actors into groups during that time and letting actors work with a specific casting agent just to get feedback. And so we're going to continue offering up other things as we go along. Again, please check the Dream Center website, www.dreamcenterharlem.org, and then / Uptown Collective. It's a long name, but you can find all the information about what we have to offer. So we're glad that you were with us. Thank you so much. Nice to be in community with you all too. And we will put that resource list up towards the end of the week. Talk to you all later. Bye-bye.